Hey, Trader. Is the sound okay? Do I need to get headphones? Can everyone hear me? Am I too loud? What's up, Tony? Okay, thanks, Brad. What's up, yo? Ah, so sad. I think it's all wet and muddy outside. I'm very sad. I need sunny days. Okay, let's chit chat. Am I at home? Yeah, I'm at home, Brad. I'm just chilling. I don't even know why I'm eating this cake with my hands. I should have ate it and then went on live. We're going to talk about, we're just going to casually go through the rent versus own thing that everyone keeps talking about when they're talking about buying a house. Tesla? I don't know. Tesla's just what it is, you know? What belt? I don't have a belt. Yeah, we're gonna talk about whatever you guys want. I just set the topic as rent versus own. Did I set it as rent versus own? I can't even see the topic title. Fuck. Oh, sorry. All right, let's talk about rent versus own. Hey, BG Torres. You love ARC, huh? Kathy Woods gotcha. All right, let's talk about rent versus own because a lot of people seem to get confused. So, a lot of people confuse home ownership with other things. Okay, you know when you're younger and you go on a date and the other person's like really hot, so. But even though the date's going bad, you try and convince yourself that they're a better person than they really are. That's like real estate. A lot of people try and make their real estate into something that it's not. You gotta take it for what it is, okay? Don't get all gooey-eyed because it's like your forever home or whatever. So let's talk about real estate. If you have any questions, just stick it in this box down here. I think there's some kind of functionality. Okay, so first of all, we're going to start off with a couple terms, right? So, a house is just a structure. I'm going to use the term house as a structure. You know, don't start thinking about it with any more doe-eyed than that. It's just a structure. So if it's a home, then I'm using the term home as something that you're going to use for shelter. You get it? You're going to live in it. The house is just a structure. The home is using it for shelter. A house can also be used for rental, right? You can rent it out. But home is very specific. That means you are living there, taking up space, and using it as shelter. God damn. I got a cheap ass tripod. I gotta spend some more money on this stuff. Okay, so first of all, shelter is like food, transportation, and all that other stuff. Clothing. Shelter's an expense. Period. I don't care if you rent or buy, you're gonna have to pay something to live somewhere. Okay? So you need to understand that. Shelter is an expense. So how do you decide between rent versus own? Like, how do you know which one's better? My belief is that owning tends to be better for most people, and I'll tell you why. Not mathematically, by the way. But before I can tell you why owning works out for a lot of people, let's go over to the rent side. Actually, let's not go over to the rent side. Let's go over to something called non-recoverable costs. You guys are with me here? Let's repeat it after me. Non-recoverable. So that means that these costs are sunk into something and cannot be recovered. Get it? When you are living somewhere, you have non-recoverable costs. So any of you who own a home, you know the costs that are non-recoverable include insurance, property tax, maintenance, interest on your loan, landscaping, capital expenditures, excuse me. Okay, so when you own a home, there's approximately 2.5% of costs that are non-recoverable under those buckets, right? So, like I said, property tax, insurance, maintenance, capital expenditures, landscaping, snow removal, whatever. Just to maintain the value of the home so it's not like, it doesn't become like dilapidated. Okay, so those, historically speaking, have been a little over 2%. Let's just say 2%. It's a little higher. Let's round it to 2. So 2% non-recoverable based on those type of expenses. You got that? So that's number one. That's for owning. The second part is opportunity cost. So for those who don't know what opportunity cost is, just think of it this way. If you have $10 and you buy some food, the opportunity is lost to buy something else, right? Opportunity cost simply means that you allocate capital into option A, meaning you cannot take advantage of option B. You pay for one kid, you can't just take that money and pay for another kid. You gotta like find the money somewhere else. So there's an opportunity cost difference between a home and something like the stock market, historically speaking. So Americans have North Americans have owned homes for decades, centuries. The stock market's been around for like 200 years, whatever. Historically speaking, homes have gone up or appreciated by whatever. Inflation, 3%, whatever. Historically, I'm not talking about like hot markets right now, this, that. If you look at a long history, the difference between the appreciation of a home and the stock market, the difference is approximately 3.5%. So that's the opportunity cost. That means if you sink money into one, you cannot invest into the other. So that opportunity cost differential is 3.5, give or take. We'll round that down to 3 because it's just easier on the math. Okay? So if you guys are following so far, I didn't napkin. Okay. The opportunity cost of a home is the cost I mentioned at the beginning, which is 2% of the price, plus the opportunity cost that you sink into equity into the home that cannot be invested, which is 3.5. We'll say 3. In total, the opportunity cost of owning a home to live in is 5%. 5. Round number, 5. You own $1 million home, opportunity cost, 50 grand a year. You own a $500,000 home, opportunity cost is 25,000 a year. Simple, right? So, how do you know which one's better, rent or own? So let's look at a $500,000 home. So round number, 5% non-recoverable cost is 25,000 a year, right? If you divide that by 12, that's what? 2080, a little less than 2,100 a month, right? So that is the non-recoverable cost of owning a home. $2,100 a month for a $500,000 home. Got it? Got it? Good. So if rent in that area for equivalent product is less than $2,100 a month, let's say $1,600, then mathematically it makes sense to rent and invest the difference. If rent for a similar product in that neighborhood is above $2,100 a month, then it makes more sense to buy mathematically. That's all well and good. But the problem is, and this is why people who buy homes tend to do better, is that because 90% of the population is financially illiterate, the odds that someone can take the difference, let's say you could rent for $1,600 and the non-recoverable cost is $2,100, so the difference is $500 a month. The odds that a person can take the $500 spread every month, invest it consistently and regularly in a U.S. index or equity fund or balanced fund or whatever the portfolio is, consistently month after month, year after year, decade after decade, is almost slim to none. It's slim to none. So number one, most people can't save $500 a month. Like if they had $500 extra, the difference between non-recoverable and rent, they would spend it. That's problem number one. People have a problem holding money. Number two is investing it, if they even know what to invest it in or what vehicle to hold it in at all. And then number three, consistency over decades. Okay, so when you put all these barriers in front of people who mathematically have an advantage renting, they fail. Just fail. So that is why the vast majority of people do better owning, because even though mathematically it's better to rent, the forced savings account, known as your mortgage payment, forces people to add to equity even though it's not in their interest to do so. That's facts. Okay, so oh yeah, and if you guys are new, the channel that you're watching now, if you're looking for stock tips or get rich quick, wrong channel, you should swipe and watch somebody else. So my channel, for those who know, and I noticed that there's not that many of my supporters actually online right now, so most of you guys probably don't know who the fuck I am. This channel is about financial literacy, improving your ability to actually make more intelligent decisions with your money instead of like pissing it away. If you click on the link in my bio, there's a very simple free guide. I'm just giving away a free guide about all the different ways that you're going to see on social media that people talk about making money, but I'm actually going to talk to you about realistically how difficult some of that stuff that you're seeing on social media is. Because I'm noticing on social media, I've only been on for about a year, a little over a year, but a lot of the social media stuff is like BS. Okay, so this is not get rich quick. There's no stock tips here. We're just talking financial literacy and how to have a chance at financial freedom somewhere down the future. Okay, so going back to that. So the odds of someone who has a mathematical advantage renting, doing all that stuff with their money, is almost zero. So the odds are in favor of owning most of the time, unless you're in some ridiculous metropolis like Toronto. Even then, right, it's all psychology. So the odds of them doing well is really low because most people will blow any dollar advantage. Okay? Like, they just won't do it. Oh, jeez, what is that? Here's a mess. Anyway. All right, let's check out some questions down here. All right. What questions do we got? How do you find rental properties? Well, you first have to pick a location, and then you got to pick an agent. So I would do some searches online. For example, the Harvard Joint Center for Housing Studies. Harvard Joint Center for Housing Studies has a lot of data on in-migration, where people are going to, leaving, where jobs are going to. So that might be useful. So check that out. That's a location. And then after that, you would literally search for a broker to help you with a specific type of product. That's a good question. How do I stop this thing? Okay. Harvard Joint Center for Housing Studies. Got it, Mike? Harvard Joint Center Housing Studies. So do a quick search on that. You'll see the website. And what are these little hands? I don't know how to do that. Oh, look at that. At the user. That's weird. Okay. Would you recommend a typical Vanguard S&P 500 index or Canadian hedged version? I don't recommend anything, to be honest with you. I'll speak for myself. As far as stocks are concerned, I only have two investments, Berkshire Hathaway and a US index, and I don't hedge currency. So don't worry about the rent versus own. I'll revisit it for the people who missed it about really what you have to think about. The bottom line is the odds are very difficult for someone to rent. But however, having said that, if the person lives in an area where renting is advantageous and they actually do invest month over month, year over year, consistently, they would come out ahead and wealthier. It's just that it's very difficult psychologically for people to do that unbroken over decades. It's just really hard. Like, there's a reason why 60 to 70% of Americans say that they're going to have difficulty retiring, right? That's it's already like they have a hard time saving. So even if it's advantageous to save while you're renting, like there's a differential, the odds of that happening, like of you saving that 500 surplus every month, because most people, when they have a surplus, it goes. Money is like a full bladder, right? The fuller it gets, the more that people want to piss it away, right? So money for most people, like they just piss it away. I'm not saying for you guys watching or anything, but by and large, that's pretty much how it goes across all demographics. You know what I'm saying? All right. Let's see some questions. There's some functionality at the bottom if you want to ask some specific questions. But I'll try and read the comments. But the comments are going too fast. Like there's no way I can like I don't like how they show like literally every person that joins is like just scrolling this thing, and it's just too hard to get questions. So I'll grab the questions from the bottom here. Yeah, you can scroll, David, it's true, but for example, I'll scroll to read something and the buffer is not big enough and it keeps scrolling, and then when I try and go back to where I was, it just disappears. So anyway. Okay. Hey, Pink Bubblegum. Congratulations. And yeah, it's great to have you in the course. What Pink Bubblegum's talking about is I had a sold out online live course that I'm sort of educating people on financial literacy. So I guess Pink Bubblegum, I didn't know your name on TikTok, so I guess Pink is part of the class. So that's good. You're getting like an overdose of me, so hopefully that's been okay. All right, let's move on. In A quality property. I'm not sure what that means. That must have been to a question I had before. In general, it's very difficult to make rentals Canada or America. It's difficult to cash flow on A-class properties. I'll just say that. It's very difficult to cash flow those. Canadian American thoughts. I don't really, I don't mind either. I just need the numbers to work, right? So Stanley, it's a great question. It needs to cash flow, whether it's America, whether I find it in America or I find it in Canada. If it cash flows, I'm good. If it doesn't, it doesn't really matter where it is. So for me right now, I haven't been lucky. I think I threw in some offers like last year and I continually got overbid. So I haven't been lucky in that space yet. But great question. I like it. Is a real estate license necessary to get into rentals? No. It's necessary to learn how to sell. You'll learn how to sell. Do I rent or own? I own. I'm not sure what that means, but that's what I do. Good question. I like it. Okay, for those who are new, I see people coming in. So we're going to go over the rent and own argument again. How many properties do I own? I know, what properties do you think I own? What format do you use? BRRRR? Okay, so BRRRR is for those who don't know, it's like buying, fixing it up, renting, and then doing it again, and refinancing to get your equity out. I used to do that. I'm not opposed to doing that. I don't use a BRRRR formula because I'm not buying BRRRRs these days. I am open to BRRRRs if there was a deal. I was thinking about it. But no, I'm basically using a pure cash flow formula, which is I need to see cash flow after operating expenses, right? Period. So I'm not even seeing that in Toronto. Like Toronto, when you strip out operating costs from your revenue, there's not enough to cover anything. Like, so forget financing, right? It can't even cover, it barely covers itself. So, okay, let's do a rent versus own. So for those who are new, I know you guys are all filtering in now. So we're gonna go over rent versus own for the people who are new here. Just a little bit of housekeeping. This channel is not stock tips. It's not get rich quick. It's not like, Shopify your way to millions. It's none of that kind of stuff. I was going to say something else. This is literally improving your financial literacy so you make better decisions with your money. But if you have a problem holding on to your money, then you got to work on that first. First things first, right? You got to learn how to crawl before you walk. So make the money. Hold the money, don't piss it away, and then improve your financial literacy to invest the money. Okay, so it's a 4-step process before you even get investing, okay? Let's do rent versus own for the newbies, and I'll do a very quick one. So I did it really slow the first time, so I'll do the rent versus own really quickly for the newbies here. And then I'll go to questions again, because you guys are adding a lot of questions. Use the functionality, because like the buffer doesn't hold a lot. The scrolling stuff, like I read the question and I stop the scrolling, and then the buffer runs out, and then I miss like chunks of everything. Okay, so rent versus own. When you buy a home, right? So definitions. A house is just a structure. A home is actually using a house for shelter. It's not, when people say like, well, you make cash flow from your home because I can rent it out. Well, that's not your home. That's someone else's home. Okay? So when you buy a house, there's something known as non-recoverable costs. Non-recoverable, as it sounds, means you cannot recover the money. It's gone. It's sunk cost. For example, insurance, sunk, gone, non-recoverable. Maintenance, sunk, gone, non-recoverable. Just there to keep the house from dilapidating. Property tax, that's sunk. County and city, if you're in the States. Property tax, non-recoverable. Interest on your financing, non-recoverable. That goes to the bank. It's gone. Capital expenditures, windows, hot water tank, roof. Those are capital expenditures. Those are sunk, non-recoverable. Okay, so historically speaking, if you own a home, approximately 2% of the value of the home per year is non-recoverable. You understand? So if it's a $1 million home, 20 grand non-recoverable every year. $500,000 home, 10,000 a year non-recoverable. So every home, whether you rent or own, has 2%, a little bit more of non-recoverable costs. So if you have a $500,000 home, let's just use $500,000 home, the non-recoverable costs will add up to approximately $10,000 a year. The second piece of the puzzle is called opportunity cost. That means any money that you put into equity in the home. So a home has equity, your down payment, the portion of your mortgage payment that goes into equity. Those are subject to opportunity cost. That means the money that's stuck in equity in your home cannot be invested. So the opportunity cost in economics, you put money in A, means you cannot then take it and put it in B. So the spread between the appreciation of a home and the appreciation of a US index, which is how people compare things, is a little over 3.5%, right? So that means the appreciation of the US index is 3.5% over a home. So if a home is like whatever, I don't know, whatever it is, I think 3-4%, the index is like 7%, something like that, okay? So there's a 3% difference, and that difference, again, is considered non-recoverable because if it's in the home, it cannot then be invested. So when they calculate non-recoverable costs, they add up the 2% and the 3% opportunity cost, giving you 5%. It's a little over 5, but I'm not going to use the fractions because it's going to be harder to calculate. We'll just keep it simple. 5% of the cost of a home per year is non-recoverable. So a $500,000 home with a 5% non-recoverable cost is $25,000 a year. $25,000 a year divided by 12 is approximately $2,080, or we'll say $2,100 a month. If you can rent for less than $2,100 a month in that location for that product, then that is advantageous for renting. So if you can rent for $1,600, say, then that $500 spread per month is the advantage renting has over owning. Now, having said that, that's a mathematical advantage. So obviously, if you rent for over $2,100 in that market for that product, then owning is advantageous. The reason why most people do not do well, or I should say most people do better owning, is because that advantage, the $500 a month, the chances of someone saving that surplus, holding on to the surplus without blowing it, investing it consistently and regularly, month over month, year over year, decade over decade, is slim to none. The fact is, 90% of the population is financially illiterate. That's not good or bad, it's just the way it is. They don't know what they don't know. So even if you have a mathematical advantage renting, 90% won't be able to take advantage of it anyway, and then probably another 5 to 8% won't have the psychological fortitude to do it every decade or for decades. So the reason why owning does well for most people is because, number one, they're financially illiterate. Number two, the chances of them having a surplus and using it in that way to invest for 2 or 3 decades is almost zero. And number three, the mortgage is a forced saving vehicle. Because they are forced to pay the bank, they are forced to save because they would otherwise not save. If you give people the option not to save, like here, rent, and here's an extra $500, they won't do it. It just won't happen, okay? Having said that, if they were able to do it, save the $500 and invest it, they would be far wealthier than if they owned in that market where there's that advantage, okay? So I've already said it twice. So I have covered the topic on this channel, and I won't say it again. Hopefully that makes some sense. So I'm going to go to some questions now. Okay, so this channel, again, we're talking buy versus rent. It's about financial literacy. Any questions you want. There's a lot of bullshit on social media that I'm watching, and I try to debunk some of it, but it's really impossible. I'm like fighting with sewage. And apparently sewage coated in pictures of Lambos, vacations, and Prada bags. So I can't really compete with that, because look at me. Like, I'm ugly as shit. Like, how am I going to compete with a Lambo? Really? A Lambo looks better. Prada bag looks better. And every vacation that I've seen on social media looks really good. So, but for those who are interested in improving their financial literacy, if you want to start, click the link in my bio. Get the free guide. It's free. There's no excuse. You click on the link, you get the free guide, and you read it. And I go over all the different types of ways that you will see on social media that people tell you that they can make money, and I will give you the unvarnished view on how difficult it actually is. Because a lot of people on social media that I'm noticing, they're giving you advice about certain ways to make money, which I can understand. Some ways are possible, but they're not telling you how probable it is or how difficult it is. Some of that stuff that they're advertising is really difficult, like to do. It's not easy. Anyway, let's answer some questions. I'm blind as a bat. How much cash flow are you looking for in a rental? Again, it depends on the person, right? If you are looking, it depends on what you're looking for, right? So for example, if some person wants a 10% yield, right? You would take the profit, whatever profit you're making, divide it by 0.1, and that's the price you should pay. If you want a 5% return, take the profit from that property, divide it by 0.05, and then you'll get the price that you should pay. That will get you that cash flow yield. I know it's a short answer, but it's a very detailed question you're asking. What if you have debt? I'm down to 15. I'm not sure the context of the question. Congratulations on getting your debt down to 15. So I don't know if that's helpful, but I need more context. Context! Oh, I feel bad for you. So this person was accepted into U of T engineering. Oh, congratulations. I went through engineering at U of T. Ooh. Okay, let's not remember that stuff. Should I go? Oh, the question is, should I go? It depends on what you want, right? I mean, the degree has some prestige, I suppose. I wouldn't go into debt for engineering. I didn't. I worked. So U of T has something, they used to have something called a professional experience year, PEY, which is you work for 16 months. You make enough money to cover all your costs for school, assuming you're not international or living in residence. So I did the PEY or co-op. I paid for my engineering degree, and I came out with an engineering degree, and I never used it again. So if you want, yeah, sure. Good luck with your decision. Yeah, I don't know. Okay, this is kind of an open question. What are examples of investments that compound? Anything that cash flows can compound in general. Okay, so if you're looking at an asset, I don't care if you're looking at like vending machines or laundromats or rental real estate or cold storage. I was talking to some commercial brokers about cold storage, industrial facilities. If you're looking at publicly traded companies, private companies, if it produces cash flow, then it has the opportunity to compound. Because inflation just by itself will make the cash flow more valuable. Assuming again that the local economy where that investment is growing. Okay? Hopefully that makes some sense. So you're looking for cash flow to get the investments that compound. So they don't just compound magically, right? It's not like money makes money magically. Money makes money on an investment that cash flows. Now, if you're talking about speculation, so for example, some people confuse like, oh, well, that means Bitcoin and gold, right? I mean, they compound because they grow in value. No, because they don't sell a good or service, so there's no cash flow from that business activity. They are growing in value because of demand and supply. Someone will pay more tomorrow than what you bought it for yesterday, makes it a good investment. If for whatever reason, because there's no cash flow to calculate the value on, there's no floor, right? Because there's no cash flow, there's no product, there's no good or service that like if I put a chunk of gold on this channel, it would just sit there. Like it wouldn't provide any service except maybe entertainment or something, like you're looking at it, but it still wouldn't make any money from doing that. But so the reason you make money off Bitcoin, gold, a house, a car, is not because it cash flows by producing a good or service, because someone wants to pay more. So in general, if you're talking about investments that compound, your question is, you're looking for cash flow. I hate how the question goes right across the screen. I can't even see it. Good questions. Is it possible to hit 10% return? With or without debt? I mean, some people are using like a crap ton of leverage to hit their 10, but the risk-adjusted return is probably like pretty low, if that makes sense. Like people dump in a lot of leverage to get their returns these days, and it's a dangerous game that people are playing. I don't know. So it's possible. How much risk do you want to take? I personally wouldn't do that, but yeah, hey, you know, that's why I'm pre-construction, no equity. If you want equity and cash flow upside, you got to go burr. That's the only opportunity now. Pre-construction right now is a speculation. So you are looking, anyone who buys pre-construction now and wanting to make money, they're just looking to get the contract, assign it, or take possession and then sell it. So Keith asked the best legal entity. You actually, like a lot of people will talk about like, oh, I want a corporation and this and that. I tend to disagree. So I've talked to a lot of real estate investors, right? Corporations are a pain in the ass. Filing requirements, cost to file, lenders hate it. Like you go to a lender to borrow money for real estate and you start writing down your corporate entity, they'll like, we don't want to deal with that. In general, if you're a small-time landlord like myself, and all you're looking is to buy like a few properties to cash flow to pay for all your living expenses, all you need is an individual insurance policy, landlord policy on the property, and then an umbrella policy over everything. You don't need a corporate entity. So now, if you're looking to be like the next Grant Cardone, and you want to own like 5,000 units, then yeah, maybe you might need a corporate entity. And you're having partners and all that stuff, and you want a joint venture and be a GP and be all baller and shit. Yeah, okay, form your corporation. But most people are so not needing a corporate entity to invest in real estate. Too small time, right? You're small time like me, you're not going to need a corporate. I only have a few $1 million, right? So I don't even need a corporate entity. You just need individual landlord policies with an umbrella on top of everything, and you're good to go. My opinion only, seek qualified help from a certified accountant and tax lawyer. So I got to say that. This is a good question. Why do you own if renting could make more? So, remember how I said that if you have an advantage with renting, the only way to win is if you deploy that difference in a US index consistently, regularly. So if you see some of my videos, I talk about a 3-bucket method where I have my growth fund, which is my US index, opportunity, and an emergency fund. So in order to win when it comes to renting, if that's an advantage in your city, you have to take that difference and consistently lump sum invest it in the US index. Now, because I invest in different asset classes and I need liquid cash in liquid form, I am not taking advantage of investing regularly. So I would rather have a forced savings account and hold off cash to the side than deplete all my cash to take advantage of renting and investing. Because at that point, if I do the renting and investing where that advantage is there, I will have zero cash. I'll have my emergency fund and that's it. So if the credit crisis ever came again, or the dot-com crash came in the 90s, or the virus crisis came in the 20s, I wouldn't have any recourse to invest in anything. My only play would be the index. So that's why I don't. However, there is advantages for those who are single-minded about the U.S. index like John Bogle was, right? So if you were John Bogle, let's say I'm speaking to John Bogle, and there's an advantage in renting, and if you have that single-minded faith in the U.S. index like he did, and you're willing to take that surplus and invest it month over month, decade over decade, then yeah, you will turn out richer. I just like doing stupid things is basically what it is. That's a good question though. I likes it. I likes it. Ba, 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 ba. This is a good question. So a lot of people are confused, right? So an index fund is a basket of companies. So this is where cash flow comes from. Every business in that index, right? So let's look at 500 businesses in the US, all these companies all over the place. They're throwing off profit in aggregate. They're not all profitable, but in aggregate, their profits are increasing decade over decade. So when you putting them in an index fund simply allows an investor to diversify across 500 companies as opposed to buying them individually, right? So you're buying a portfolio of cash flowing, in aggregate, cash flowing businesses with one instrument, with one purchase. So the underlying foundation of the index fund are cash flowing businesses. It's similar to a REIT, which has all these cash flowing rentals, theoretically cash flowing, depending on what industry you're in, and they bundle it into a single ETF. That is a productive asset because you're not buying the brick and mortar, you're buying that instrument where the underpinning assets are cash flowing. So that is why an index fund is considered a cash flowing investment as opposed to a speculative. I don't even want to go into that, so it's a little tricky there. Because speculation is not only that it does not sell a good or service, but there's other criteria too. But let's stick with does not sell a good or service. If something sells a good or service and makes a profit, like all the businesses in the S&P 500 in aggregate, then that's a cash flowing productive asset. Bitcoin, gold, the house that you live in, they do not sell a good or service, so they don't produce any cash flow. So buying them is not investing because they're not generating productivity. They're just being there. And they're a speculation because the only way to profit, or by far the largest way to profit, is from someone buying it at a higher price. Because it's not producing anything. It's not productive. It's not making anything to be sold. I mean, I can like separate it down into like small little slices, but then I'll lose like everybody. Hopefully that makes some sense. Like, so that's what you're saying. So also, I didn't finish with this actually. And about 1.5 to 2% of an index's return is in dividends. So dividends is a return of capital. It's sort of like the profits, a portion of it is given back to the investor. So you see some of that profit. Most people take that dividend and reinvest it, but you will see it sort of pop out and then you reinvest it and then it goes and does its own thing. So it's a long-winded answer, but it's a great question. So Gord, hopefully that helps a little bit. When do I usually go live? I don't usually go live, to be honest with you. Sometimes I'm like, oh, I gotta go live. This is a really good, this would be really educational. And then I'm like, and I end up watching like TV or, Amazon Prime. Hey, you know what I'm thinking about actually? Okay, so tell me what you guys think. I'm thinking about buying an Oculus, what's it called? Oculus Quest 2. What do you guys think about the Oculus Quest 2? Like, is it good? Am I gonna throw up? Like, does it have enough games that are interesting? Is it like completely overpriced? Like, what's going on with the Oculus Quest? Okay, anyway, that's the sidebar. Let's see here. What else we got? Okay, there's a lot of questions here. I'm gonna have to pick and choose because I can't answer all of them. What is my college qualifications? I don't qualify to be anything. I'm in Toronto, actually. I'm in Toronto. So, thoughts on NFTs. NFTs are interesting, actually. I was actually in a few clubhouse rooms listening to people talk about NFTs. I think one of my buddies is really creative, right? Like, I'm not really creative. One of my buddies is like super creative. Like, the artwork he makes is like insane. And I'm telling him to get on this NFT thing. Like, he should digitize and tokenize his shit because I think that would be cool. But only because I don't have anything of value to tokenize. You know what I'm gonna do? I'm gonna tell my buddy to like tokenize his stuff and then I can buy it or something. I'll buy a piece off him. That'd be great. Anyway, whatever. That's besides the point. I love NFTs, not necessarily to invest in, but because it's just a cool idea. Like, it's one of the first use cases for the blockchain that I'm excited about. I've always heard people use like use cases for blockchain of like, oh, we can make smart contracts for real estate. And I'm like, that doesn't get me excited. Like, who cares? Like, who cares? Like, I don't need a smart contract for real estate. Like, I'll fax my shit. I'll DocuSign my stuff. Like, I don't care. Anyway, whatever. College qualifications. I'm not qualified for anything. I am not qualified to give financial advice. None of this is advice. You should not listen to my advice. You should get a financial advisor who will better understand your temperament, risk profile, and all that jazz. I just tell you what I would do, and that's it. In terms of my schooling, how many years ago? Oh, fuzz. How many years ago did I go to school? So I'm almost 50. So I graduated in my 20s. So let's say 27 years ago. So 27 years ago, I graduated from University of Toronto and their engineering program. And that was the last time I used any of my engineering skills. So my math has regressed to grade 4 arithmetic, and I could barely hang on with my kid's homework right now. My kid is in grade 4. I'm still there. I'm still hanging on. So, anyway, good question. You look 3. That's great. Okay. Okay, condo or house? Okay, I'm not going to tell people what they should do, right? You got your own money. Okay, here's a rule that most people, I don't know why they don't know, but they don't know. 30, 30, and 3. 30, 30, 30, 3. Let me write it out for you guys. Can I reverse the mirror on this thing? I know it's going to be backwards. When you're looking to buy a house or a condo, this is an easy rule to remember. 30, 30, and 3. 30% down payment should not eat up more than 30% of your gross revenue, should be priced at 3 times your annual income. Let me write that down. 30% of gross, 30% down, 3 times gross annual. Okay. Okay. So when you're looking to buy a home, this is an easy rule to remember, and it's not set in stone, by the way. It's not set in stone. It's something that's easy to remember, and you can modify it. So I'll talk about the modification. So 30, 30, 30, and 3. Household expenses, once you own your property, should not eat up more than 30% of your gross income. You pull in 90 grand a year, it should not eat up more than 30 of that. grand. 30%, what does that say? 30% down, you should have a large down payment. 3 times your gross annual rent is how much it should cost. So the reason why this rule, I remember this because it's easy to remember. Really, if you want to do this, if you want to really get to the nitty gritty, you'd be doing 30, 20, and maybe 4, right? If you want to be flexible. So you can modify it. I would keep this one fixed, like 30% of gross salary into household expenses. I think that's a pretty hard and fast one for me, 30%. 30% down payment is flexible. Some people 20% down. I wouldn't go lower than 20 myself, but this is just easy to remember, 333. So 20%, you can say 20% down, and this is the price of the property 3 times annual gross. So if you make 100 grand, so the price you're looking at for a home is 300,000. Now that doesn't mean you have to max out at that. You can pay more, but you need to understand opportunity cost. If more money goes into housing, you cannot invest it. If you do A, you cannot do B. So yeah, you can modify this, and instead of 3 times gross, like if you make 100 and you want to buy something at $1 million, right, which is 10 times, then you have to understand that you are sacrificing something. You are sacrificing your ability to invest in other things. Okay, so you can modify this rule any way you want. This is just an easy way to remember. If you're looking to buy a home, 30, 33. Very easy to remember. So you can modify that rule, but if you modify the rule, you need to understand the consequences. Not saying you shouldn't, It's not like, Jim said that, you can't go over 3 times gross annual. Not saying that. I'm saying if you do, there's an opportunity cost involved. You put more money into your house. Logic is that you cannot put more money into your investments. It works for you, it works for me. I put more money into housing, I have less money to buy real estate. I put more money into housing, I have less money to buy stocks. That's just the gravity of the financial system. Oh shit, I'm running out of water. All right. Okay, let's move on. Condo or house, buying in 22. I like condos. Oh yeah, let's go to that question. I'll leave the question up actually. I like condos, okay? When I grew up, I lived in a house. My parents had a house, and every day, I am not shitting you, every weekend, my parents were busy with the house. Landscaping, cutting the grass, shoveling the snow, downspouts, troughs, toilets, everything. Like they had to take care of everything. They were always busy with the house. Always. So when I had a choice of moving out, I was not looking at a house. I love condos. I have lots of condos. I love condos. I don't worry about anything. Like I don't have to check the fire system. I don't have to check my air filters. I don't have to check. I don't have to clean the common areas. I don't have to care about water drainage. I don't have to care about nothing. Snow removal, garbage disposal. I don't care nothing. It's like I just, that's the way I want to live, right? Some people like houses, right? That's just whatever you like. So it's the same thing, like some people have that pride of ownership, right? They like to, do everything around the house. Right? That's not me, please. It's not me. Okay. Good question. I like it. I think I answered this one. I'm going to remove that. How to build from zero. Okay, this is a good question. Maintenance fees. Yeah, you gotta pay for it. So user says maintenance fees. Yeah, so you either do the work yourself, right? Pay for the supplies, the materials, and do it yourself, or you pay maintenance fees and someone else does it. So, listen, if you guys have seen my channel on TikTok is not get rich quick. I don't give stock tips, and I'm not telling you to buy real estate, wholesale, flip, all this stuff. There's no get rich quick here. My channel is about, if you see my videos, financial literacy, identify opportunities, take advantage, grow wealth, and I'm lazy as shit. Okay, so I'm super lazy. I mean, the fact is, the reason I got on this journey to be financially free through financial literacy is because I didn't like working. My first job, I got fired. Okay, so I was a dishwasher at St. Hubert's. So I don't know if anyone you guys from Ontario, but we used to have St. Hubert's back in the 80s. I love that place. I love St. Hubert's. I think it's in Quebec, right? So anyway, I worked at St. Hubert's as a dishwasher. Oh God, dishwasher. The water is like scalding hot. And anyway, and French onion soup. Oh my God. Have you ever tried to clean French onion soup from those ceramic bowls? Oh, anyway. Okay. I've worked many jobs and eventually I got frustrated at every boss and I've been fired almost everywhere. I knew that working wasn't for me. It's just not. Doesn't mean I didn't. I did work. It wasn't for me. I got fired in a lot of places because sometimes management would do stupid things and I would say, you're a stupid idiot, and then I'd get fired, basically. So, but I knew because I improved my financial literacy that I would be out sooner than later. So I invested, I got out, and I don't like doing nothing. This is why I like condos. I pay maintenance fees so someone else can take care of everything. I pay house cleaners. I don't clean my own house. I don't want to clean nothing. Vacations, I'm not interested in waiting in line. It's first class all the time. I cut in line. I get through security. I get first board on the plane, and I get first off on the plane. Not interested in just, suffering, basically. I suffered enough as a kid, right? In the 70s, looking like how I looked like, in every school I've been to, where everyone is basically not looking like this, I suffered enough. So when I have money now, I make sure I do nothing. I don't want to do nothing. Nothing. So condo for sure. Yeah, you got to pay maintenance. Like what's Toronto these days? Toronto's like 70 cents a square foot. So if you look at a condo, you're going to be paying anywhere from 70 to 80 cents a square foot, I think is a good estimate. So 1,000 square foot, $700. I think it's safe to reserve that amount. So you're going to be paying 70 cents a square foot for them to take care of everything. That's the way I like it. I like it like that. Why did I go off on this tangent? Oh yeah, because someone said you're paying maintenance. Damn straight I'm paying maintenance. I barely do my own cooking. Like I cook because I want to, like my wife cooks because I kind of want to eat healthy. But in general, if they didn't have so much sodium and salt, sodium and sugar in all this delivery food, I'd be eating delivery all day. Anyway. Okay. How do I access my equity? How are you? I'm doing good. LOC, yes or no? Okay, so how to invest from zero? Shit, I forgot that one. I wanted to actually answer that one. How to start from zero? Sorry. Yeah. Okay. If I was starting today. Okay. So the funny thing is, starting today from zero is actually very similar to when I started in the 90s from zero with a few differences. So I'll name the differences. So number one, so in the 90s, the stock market was on a tear, right? Just like now. So investments weren't cheap. Real estate was not cheap, right? So when I graduated, the average annual salary for an engineer was $35,000, all right? And the average property was say 250. What multiple is that? My math is gone. So you're making 35 and the property is like maybe 8 times more than what you make. Is that the same now? It's probably a little worse now, but it's not terribly worse, right? It is bad. I would say housing's worse now, but not by not like by a landslide, because you can still get into a 1-bedroom condo for 500 maybe. I mean, depending on what location. Okay, so when I started, it's very similar to how it is now. So I'll tell you all the mistakes I made. Number one, I totally did not learn how to sell. That is a big mistake. I don't know, I don't even know how to convey how big a mistake that is. School never even told me that I needed to learn how to sell. School never even told me that selling was freaking important. Selling is literally the most important skill you can graduate from college with. If you are looking to go on an interview, ask for a raise, get a promotion, you are selling all the time. I had to learn the hard way from going on interviews that, hey, I kind of need selling skills because I'm the product and I'm not representing the product as well as I could, right? Because when I graduated, my friends and I started a business and our revenues were lumpy because I couldn't sell. And then when I wanted to go into the workforce, I'm finding that I have a difficult time conveying my value. Selling skills, number one, if you are going to school right now, freaking learn how to sell. For the glove of whatever, if you want someone to see how valuable you are, you should learn how to sell. If for no other reason. And if you want to have sex, you better learn how to sell. Because, look at my face. Do you think this face sells itself? I don't think so. My wife didn't hook up for this face. It's for the package. She got the package. You know what I'm saying? Okay, anyway, so if I went back and I had to talk to my 18-year-old self, it's selling. Learn how to sell. Dale Carnegie, How to Win Friends and Influence People. Classic book. Read Robert Cialdini, Psychology, Influence, Psychology of Persuasion. And there's a ton of sales books out there. Last but not least, get a job where you have to sell. Get a job where you got to sell. And that's getting harder now, actually, because retail is dying, right? Brick and mortar is dying. So it's very hard. People are buying shit online. So when you're online, you don't deal with a salesperson. You just click and you buy it, right? So in the past, when there are a lot of brick and mortar, you're standing there. You got to talk to the customer. You got to make eye contact. You got to engage them. You got to build rapport, communicate, all that stuff. I am telling you, if you learn how to sell, if that's the only skill that you learn in your college years, you are doing really good. I don't care what your degree is. Take your degree, add on selling skills, it'll be better. 100%. Okay, so starting from zero. So learning how to sell. So once you learn how to sell, you can probably get any job you want, literally, okay? So that's a no-brainer. So number two, house hacking. I love house hacking. So house hacking, for those who don't know, one form of house hacking is you buy a duplex, you live in one side, you rent out the other. Another form of house hacking is you just rent a whole bunch of, you and your friends rent a place, right? Or you buy a place and a bunch of your friends pay you rent. House hacking, right? The reason is because shelter is a expense, generates no cash flow. You need to somehow either convert it into making cash flow, like your roommates pay you, or half of the duplex is paying rent. You need to somehow either convert it or minimize it. So if you don't want to do the house hacking where you got the duplex or you got the roommates and all that stuff, minimize your cash outlay for shelter. That's number two, because that will hinder you. You need money to work right away, especially when you're young. If it's not working, because time is the most important when it comes to investing. Time. Such a big advantage that 18-year-olds have and they're not even aware. Time. Because when you get to my age, which is closer to 50, you're going to be like, God damn, like I invested for 30 years or 40 years. That's going to be a long time. But if you start at 40 and 45 and then you hit my age, you're like, I only invested for like 4 years. You made nothing. You can't make anything. Small amounts of money with a lot of time grow into huge amounts of money. So start early, get financially literate. That's number 2, right? After selling skills, financial literacy. John Bogle, The Little Book of Common Sense Investing. Everybody should be downloading that and buying that book. Okay, so let's say you can't afford that book. The guide in my bio is free. 5 ways to improve your chances at financial freedom. It's free. I tell you all the different ways to make money and how difficult each one is. So you can pick a path and go in eyes wide open in terms of if it could help you. So learn how to sell, improve your financial literacy, read John Bogle's books, download my free guide in my bio. It's free. Like, I don't even know what the excuse is. Like, it's free. Hello? Free. If I had a free selling book, I would do that too. I'm sure some people have some kind of free ebook on how to sell. I would download those too. Sell, financial literacy. Start off from scratch there and just grind. Grind. Okay. All right. Move that over. Ooh, how are you? Hey, I'm doing good. I'm doing really good. Still lazy as shit, but I'm doing good. Thank you for asking. All right, let's see. Went to Blue Mountain. Okay, so to adhere to the title of this live, I am going to go over the rent versus buy. Who wants to hear the rent versus buy argument? Okay, so I've already given it twice to the people who've been with me since the beginning. God damn, it's hot in here. Wait a second. Okay. Who wants to hear the rent versus buy argument again? Can't hear me? Yeah, because my wife called. So, who wants to hear the rent versus buy rationale, and who wants me to continue with questions? So either say questions or rent versus buy. Questions or rent versus buy? I got a lot of rent versus buy. I got questions and rent versus buy, both. Oh my God, you people. Okay, we'll do the rent versus buy because I'm seeing more of that because new people are filtering in. Okay, so if you haven't heard the rent versus buy argument, if you have heard it, thank you for visiting. I'm going to shut it down after this rent versus buy argument, and you guys can listen to that. The only thing I'll say is, again, my channel is not about stock tips. It's not about getting rich quick or like going off to like quitting your job, getting a Shopify business going or anything like that. It's financial literacy, improving your chances of making the wealth that you need to retire comfortably. Free guide in my bio. Go get that. And I'm going to go with rent versus buy right now because I'm seeing RVB all across the chat. Okay, so rent versus buy, very simple argument. You guys gotta sit down, pay attention. So I'm gonna talk to you about why rent versus buy. How do you decide? There's 2 components, right? There's mathematical and then there's psychological. So rent versus buy. Whenever you own, I'm gonna use some definitions. So I'm gonna clarify some definitions at the beginning. Rent versus buy, a house is just a structure. When I say house, I mean a structure, the home. I'm not the home, the house, the building, the brick and mortar. Okay, so home is using a house for shelter. You're living in it. You know, some people say like, well, I'm going to rent my home. Well, that's not your home. Someone else is living there. That's your tenant. Okay, so home is you living there. So home is always an expense. Shelter is an expense. You have lots of expenses in your life. You got food, you got clothing, you got medical, and you got shelter. Shelter's an expense. It's not an investment, it's an expense. So when you look at a house, whether you're a landlord or a homeowner, you have something called non-recoverable costs. Everybody has non-recoverable costs. You got it? Non-recoverable. What does that sound like? You cannot recover it. You put the money in, you don't get it out. Non-recoverable costs are split into two. The first one is the financial. Property tax, insurance, maintenance, interest on your loan. That money goes in and disappears. It goes in to make your home habitable. It's approximately, historically speaking, a little over 2% of the value of the home. So if you have a $500,000 home, 2% non-recoverable means $10,000 a year in property tax, maintenance, insurance, capital expenditures, interest on your loan, etc. Got that? The second part is an economics term called opportunity cost. That means if you put money into A, you cannot put money into B. That's the opportunity cost. The difference between the appreciation of a home or house and the US stock market is typically 3.5%, give or take, right? That means the equity stuck in your home cannot be invested. That is opportunity cost. You put money in this, you cannot put money in here. You take one and you roll the dice on one. So when you buy a home, the opportunity cost is a little over 3.5%. Now, if you remember the first term, the non-recoverable in terms of property tax, insurance, maintenance, all that stuff is 2%. And the opportunity cost of owning a home is roughly 3%. When you add 2 plus 3, you get good, 5. You get 5% non-recoverable. So, $500,000 home, 5% non-recoverable. What is that? What's 5 times 500? You're right, $25,000 a year. So if you own a home, or if it's $1 million, that'd be $50,000 a year. If you own a $500,000 home, 5% non-recoverable means $25,000 a year non-recoverable, or approximately $25,000 a year. Divide by 12 months in a year. That's a little over $22,000 a month, 2080, 2083 or whatever. Say 2100. 2100 a month is the mathematical break point for rent versus buy. So if rent is $1,600 a month, then mathematically the advantage is to rent. If the rent is over $2,100 a month, then the advantage is to buy. That is just purely based on math. Now, the reason why 90% of people do better owning, the reason why the vast majority of people do better owning is not because it's always advantageous to own. It is because even if rent was $1,600, even if rent was better, 90% of people are financially illiterate. That's the facts, man. Like, there's a reason why it's called the 1%. Most people are financially illiterate. Most people cannot hold money. If they had a $500 surplus from renting, they would spend it. Most people would spend it. That's number 2. Number 1, illiterate. Number 2, excess money typically is spent. Number 3, if they don't blow the first 2, like they're financially literate and they're not blowing their extra money, to be able to invest, because remember opportunity cost, investing in the US index, to invest that surplus month after month, year after year, decade after decade, to get that advantage is almost zero. So that is why most people do better owning, because when you pay the mortgage, it is literally a forced savings account. Forced savings. You will pay the bank, you will build equity, even though the opportunity cost is not there, non-recoverable is not there, you will do that, and that's a forced savings account. So the odds of someone renting, having a surplus, investing it regularly, being financially literate, doing it for decades, almost nobody. But that's how you would decide between rent versus own. Got it? Got it? Good. All right. Yeah, so what about appreciation on property? So like I said, the two components, non-recoverable cost is number one, property tax, maintenance, insurance, capital expenditures, insurance, interest on your loan, plus the difference between your home appreciation and investing it. The opportunity cost difference is 3% in favor of investing it. So when you dump it in a home, it's not being invested. It's appreciating at a slower rate than the growth in the U.S. Machine. Okay, and that's a 3% difference, historically speaking. So yes, it's taking into account the appreciation and all that stuff, right? Most people do better owning. Fact is, a forced savings account is typically better than what most people have, which is no savings account. Nothing. Okay, guys. Thanks for watching the channel. I appreciate it. The bond market. Oh, come on, man. The bond market. You want to talk about the bond market? No one knows what's going on with the bond market, to be honest with you. I don't even know what's going on. The credit market is weird right now. Weird. So much money in the system. Anyway, thank you for watching my channel. Not about getting rich quick. If you're looking to get rich quick, this is not the channel for you. This is financial literacy. If you want to get rich quick, stock tips, the TikTok equivalent of Wall Street bets, this is not the channel. This is about educating yourself, becoming financially literate, and growing your wealth so that when you decide that you don't want to work, you have that option. Free guide in my bio. Go get it. It's free. Start you off, and then start reading The Little Book of Common Sense Investing by John Bogle. I don't know how often I do live, like once every month. So it was good to see you guys. Haven't seen you guys in a long time. So send me DMs. I answer DMs occasionally. I just have to chew through a lot of them. So don't think that if I didn't respond in a day, I hate you or whatever. I'll get to you. Don't worry about it. All right, guys. Love you all, and we'll talk to you soon. Keep watching my channel. Throw me ideas on what videos you want to see. I'll put those out too. See ya, guys. Woo!